I'd like to call up Cary with EMC and then Brandon Joback with Alma Tire. I love these profiles, you guys, so I got to hear this one. This is my favorite one. Cary has worked in the insurance industry for a short 29 years in both sales and risk management. She's earned the Associates in Risk Management designation. She loves spending time with her family and going for walks in the woods with her dog. For Cary, pleasurable pastimes include listening to big band music, watching movies from the golden age of Hollywood, reading, traveling in the U.S. and around the world. Favorite travel memories, watching the sunset and the moon rise simultaneously while glamping in the Sahara Desert in Morocco. Wow, that's pretty cool. Brandon Joback is the director of the fleet sales at ATS Fleet Service, the commercial tire division of Alma Tire Companies. He has 22 years of experience in the commercial tire service industry with a focus in trucking and transportation. Brandon is responsible for creating statewide fleet tire and maintenance programs for companies of all sizes. He enjoys helping customers find ways to save money on their tires and service programs by creating customized tire offerings. Let's give him a round of applause, everyone.
Hi there. Hi there. Yes, I was in Morocco, and I call it glamping because I had a restroom and a shower, everything within a tent. But it was really an amazing experience to be there and to see that, and with the people that I was with, it was really fun. I recommend everybody go to Morocco. I'm Cary. I'm with EMC Insurance and invited here today by the general agency to talk about fleet safety. And Brandon Joback is going to be following my presentation. There we go. Okay, so hopefully we're going to talk about saving your business time and money by managing your risk. Who would you say at your business is responsible for managing risk? Just shout it out. Everybody, yes, thank you. Management, employees, it's a common goal, it's a partnership. Yes, so it's a partnership. I used hearts because it's Valentine's Day, also because I know everybody loves insurance. And outside of your business, it's a partnership with your agency and with your insurance company. We're all here to help you minimize loss, and then if there is loss, to be there for you and to help you with that. But to help you put programs in place at your business that will hopefully alleviate loss. So everybody has vehicles. It's part of normal business operations. But with vehicles comes the risk of loss, and that's to your employees by injury or to your vehicles by property damage, sometimes to your company with reputational damage, with things that happen out on the road. So basically, we're going to talk about what kind of a program can we put together to keep your drivers and your community and your vehicles safe. So at EMC and all insurance companies, we recommend a fleet safety program, and a lot of times I'll go in and I'll talk with the business and they'll say, our guys or our gals have been driving forever, why do we need to put something special in place about driving? And all I can say is that it helps to have some sort of preset policies and procedures that you communicate to the people that are going to be driving for your business for your expectations. A lot of times people grow up with bad habits or they accumulate bad habits behind the wheel, and you want to kind of set the record straight as to what you're expecting. So having a policy helps do that. And I'm going to be going through sample sections of the EMC insurance policy today. If you have any questions, even if you're not insured with EMC and you'd like me to forward you a copy via email, just please give me your business card at the end. It's a Word document. Kind of when I'm going through this, we're going to be talking about the gold standard of what the insurance company thinks is best, but obviously many of our accounts modify and adopt it to what they see fit. So the program starts off with program responsibilities, and management is really where it all starts, ownership and management. You have to have that support and commitment and The ability to either have management be the program administrator of the fleet safety program or to appoint somebody to do that. But then if they appoint somebody, to give them the authority to make decisions based on what the policy and procedures are going to be, and for all the employees to know that that person is going to have authority to do that as well. It can't just be, hey, my insurance company said we need to have this program, throw it at them and expect it to be something that's useful at the business. That's not going to happen. So building the culture around safety and fleet safety is just management being committed to it. And really, it's the only way to be committed is to have a conversation. Not too hard. So then the other program responsibility would be for the fleet safety program administrator. They're going to make sure that when there's a new employee, that new employee gets the handbook and the fleet driver portion of that handbook, and it's going to spell out the different rules. Program administrator is also going to be in charge of driver selection, vehicle maintenance, training. And then at the end of the year, or however, a year goes by fast, so let's say it's every 2 or 3 years, they're going to look at the program and say, okay, do we need to update it? Is it working for us? What changes can we make? And employees, they definitely need to be engaged and a part of the program. And I think the best way that that can happen is to ask them, you know, we have pump trucks, we have different types of trailers. What are your concerns when you're driving those things? And what do we need to make sure to emphasize for new people coming into the business, or just for people that have been driving these for a long time, but it's good to have a reminder. Getting their input, I think, you know, really helps the program to excel. Everybody likes to offer their opinion and to know that they're part of things. Driver selection. I keep hearing from different companies that I go in and speak with that it's very hard to find anybody that wants to work these days, let alone then have selection criteria. But if you don't, you're going to end up picking up the people that weren't picked up by other people that did the selection criteria. So what we recommend all insurance companies do is to kind of go through and check the motor vehicle record of potential applicants and weigh that in the hiring decision. So it would be before they were hired and then updated annually. Also, if they're kind of like a post-accident drug test, you could do a post-accident motor vehicle record check to see what has happened on their license. Different ways that you can check the motor vehicle records. A lot of people will use their insurance agency who has a discount through a service, and they'll do it when you give them the driver's list, when you first start to write with them, and then annually. But there's a way through the Michigan State subscription service. And just real quick, you pay $11 per driver, you get everybody signed up, and then as things happen, you'll get an alert, like so-and-so was speeding, and this is what happened and where. And I like that not because of a tattletale system, but because we're going to talk about driver selection criteria later that the drivers are going to be held accountable to. And then you can counsel them and say, okay, you've had one moving violation. This is what our policy says. If you get 2 more, then you're not going to be eligible to drive. It's not just going to be with EMC insurance. It's going to be with other insurance companies too, because these rules are basically set by our reinsurance companies, because even insurance companies have to buy insurance. And talking about maintaining and updating the driver list annually, I talk with businesses a lot and they say, oh yeah, we're doing that. But then also I get claims on a daily basis that come in throughout the state of Michigan and that says driver not listed. So this person that was involved in an accident wasn't listed on the driver's list. I just know that there's a lot that can be going on in any certain time or day for a business. And a lot of times getting the driver added to the list isn't done. So it's just something to try to focus on. So here's the driver selection criteria. The first one I think is kind of the gold standard, especially with the shortage of employees that we're having lately. But if drivers or employees will be prohibited from operating vehicles under any of the following conditions. Employees under 25 years of age. The rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. Employee does not have a valid driver's license, or the license has been suspended or revoked. And you don't know that until you check the record, because a lot of people are just maybe not wanting to be forthcoming in their application about something that they're not too proud of. It's nice to have an employee that has verifiable driving experience. Some people tell me that they'd rather have somebody that they can train on their own rather than have to modify their bad habits, though. So it goes either way, I think. And then this is for a 3-year period. If the motor vehicle record indicates that there's 2 at-fault accidents or 3 moving violations or 2 moving violations plus 1 at-fault accident in the past 3 years, then that person wouldn't be eligible to drive. And every insurance company is different, but there's some watch lists, there's some excluded drivers. The watch list, they might be on the cusp, and you want to make sure that nothing else happens, because the reputation of your business and the liability of your business is dependent on who you're putting on the road. These are still driver selection criteria, but this is what I call one and done. Before it was 3 in a 3-year period. This is just 1 in a 5-year period, and then you have to wait until that 5-year period is expired to be eligible to drive again. So driving under the influence, reckless driving or speed contests, a hit and run, manslaughter or homicide with a vehicle, leaving the scene of an accident, fleeing, eluding a police officer. Most of those people are like, oh yeah, I get that. Passing a stopped school bus surprises people, but it is the law, and there is a lot at risk with the kids that are getting on board. And so that's why it's a one and done. Speeding 15 or more miles over the speed limit, refusing a chemical test, operating with a suspended or revoked license. And then the last one, having tested positive in an alcohol or drug test while in the employment of the business. So if you were to have a random test and they were positive, they would be kind of done for about 5 years based on this. Okay, vehicle maintenance. So now we're going through how to select a good driver. Now, what kind of vehicle are you going to put them in, and what kind of condition is that vehicle in, and how do you expect them to maintain that vehicle? Inspections are a good way of kind of doing an assessment of where the vehicle is and whether it's road ready. And if during that inspection anything's not okay, it's just best to have it fixed immediately, not take it out on the road and say, we'll get to that later after these calls. But to do it immediately, report the problems to the program administrator, and use a vehicle self-inspection report. And this is the one that EMC recommends. There's a list on the left-hand side that says to go through things before starting the engine, wheels, tires, which Brandon's going to talk about a little later, mirrors, all the things, and then after starting the engine, things to be cognizant of. And at the bottom of this inspection report is something that says satisfactory or unsatisfactory. A lot of business owners tell me, this is too much to do every day. My drivers aren't going to do it. What about once a week on a Monday morning, before you get the trucks back out on the road, having this documentation and even weekly repetition of this inspection, I think will get it in the driver's mind. And so wherever they're starting their trip, whether it's at a customer's house or at the main location for the day, this is all going to be in their head, and looking at it and making changes and fixes if need be, if they spot them. But they have to be kind of in that mode of checking for things too. The EMC program has some driver safety rules, just kind of setting some parameters of what's expected. And Michigan law also has those rules. As of June of this year, they said, it has to be hands-free. I read something where it has to be hands-free. You can't use your arms or your shoulders to support your phone. Didn't say anything about legs. I imagine that'll come eventually. I have seen people drive with their computers on their lap, so I'm sure that they'll try with their phones at one point. But just having it be hands-free. And then if you have to go somewhere, make the call before you leave or after you stop, or pull over while you're driving and continue that call. And for those of us that, curiosity is is very hard to overcome. I put my cell phone in my console so I can't see when something is coming in, and that way I'm not tempted to look as to what it is until I've stopped the vehicle. Seat belts. I'm still surprised when I talk with groups of drivers about how many people still don't wear seat belts. But it has been statistically proven that when you buckle up, you're cutting your chances of being in a crash and being dead afterwards by half. So it's really a big return on investment just to take that brief moment to buckle up. And then some of the other vehicle safety features are dependent on the safety belts being on. Your airbags, if you're not wearing your seat belt, they can injure or kill you, the force, because going back and forth together instead of one being contained back. So belts and bags work together. I've been on the road for a lot of years. One day in particular, though, somebody, I don't know whether he had been drinking or what, but he was trying to cut me off. And I was on a highway, and I started to speed up, and he decided to come past me on the right-hand side, and then quick veer in front of me. And then he rolled in the median, and I stopped, and I called 911 because I knew that it probably wasn't good what had just happened to him. And then the ambulance person said, could you go check on that driver? We need to know the status of this person that's in an accident. And what I saw was he wasn't in the vehicle. He had been thrown across the other two lanes of the southbound traffic. I was going north, and was laying in a pile of snow, and he had gone through his windshield. And it was just a sight that you'll never forget, and something that you don't ever want to happen to you or any of your family members or anybody close to you or anybody. So I tell that story just because I think it really is important that you talk to your drivers and ask them to wear their seat belts, even if it's not a personal preference on their own time. Driver safety rules, I think we all know, drugs and alcohol are illegal, and you shouldn't be behind the wheel after that. But there's things like even if you took medicine for a toothache, that can cause fatigue and slow your reaction times. So when talking about this part of the fleet safety program, I would talk about that. It talks about fatigue as well, or illness. And you don't know, you might have a person that has a young child at home, didn't get any sleep the night before. Having it be acceptable for them to tell you that and to say, I'm just not my best self today. Maybe I ride with somebody, or maybe I don't drive the vehicle. Having them feel that it's okay to tell you that. Severe weather, we haven't had too much of it this winter, which has been nice. But the owner and management, they set the tone. Are you like, hey, we're on the road, got to make money. If our wheels aren't on the pavement, we're not making money. Is it that kind of environment, or is it, your employee safety is our priority as well? Hopefully it's that, and that needs to be communicated because not everybody understands that that's the case. And they may go out in weather that they're not comfortable with, thinking with good intentions. Had an account do that up in Grayling, Michigan in an ice storm, and it was a tanker rollover. They were really trying to get to a station and provide the product that was needed, but it was just a horrible, horrible day, and really nobody should have been out on the roads. And it cost a lot of money long term. That employee was okay, though, so that's good. Just prohibiting radar detectors. I'm not even sure, is this a thing anymore? Do people use radar detectors? Yeah, but just in case, prohibited them. Glass had a heating and air contractor down in the Detroit area, and they have these new Ford vans for their company vehicles, and they have a very low windshield. And so they're just getting all sorts of windshield claims. So instead of having a ton of windshield claims, they're saying, okay, and if there's one, don't worry about it. If there's two or three, then we'll take it in to get it fixed. But that really just isn't, safe. So if there's anything that's happening to the windshields, need to replace those. To try to keep that from happening, keep a safe distance between vehicles, especially on the gravel roads, or a gravel hauler. Try to stay far away from them because I've had a lot of stuff come back up out of the vehicle. Use dry cloths to wipe the windshield so it doesn't streak. Replace worn wiper blades as soon as they begin to streak, and use plastic or rubber ice scrapers, never metal. Towing, just making sure that the program administrator or ownership or manager talking with employees and saying these are the things that can be towed. If you have employees that take their personal or their company vehicles home, you wouldn't want to have any personal items being towed, any boats or trailers, stuff like that. A fleet safety program should address traffic violations and citations. You want to let the employee know that anything happens, it's going to be their responsibility to pay the ticket, even if it's on business time. And another thing to tell them, because there's a lot of misconception out there, is that their driving record, when we're looking at that driver selection criteria, it's just not what they do on company time, it's everything on their record. I've had a lot of very good intentioned drivers say, well, but when I get behind the company vehicle, my behavior totally changes, and I would never do that. It doesn't matter, unfortunately, just everything that's on your record. Vehicle accident investigation. Basically, having a program administrator talk with the drivers and say, if something happens, this is how we want to handle this. And having that conversation before something happens. It's going to help with the cost of the claim, and it's going to help the driver in that situation know what to do instead of being flustered already because of the accident and then trying to figure things out. And after the accident, the program administrator will take a look at the police report and the document, the incident report that the driver fills out and say, what could we have done differently? Try to find a root cause. And then go from there, maybe share it with other employees that are driving the same types of vehicles is hopefully a lesson that everybody can learn, not a blame game, but like, hey, let's support each other, and this happened, it could happen to you too. Let's try to make it not happen. When in an accident, there's a list of things that the driver should do, and you can keep this in the glove box in a kit. So that, and I also recommend talking about it during employee orientation. So after an accident, they're not fumbling around in the glove box trying to find this kit. They already know it's there and what's in it. But certain things, stop your vehicle, protect the scene. If at all possible, try to stay in the vehicle. There's so many more accidents that occur with other oncoming traffic when people are out of their vehicles. Call the police. Try to locate any witnesses, get important information from them so that you can call them later and get their side of the story. Take photos of the accident. You can do that from inside of your vehicle as well. And then fill out an accident report form. And here's some things that's good to go over before the time as well. Just don't admit fault or apologize. Sometimes that's a natural reaction, whether you are at fault or not. Because those things can be taken later as an admission of fault, an apology can be. Don't argue with other drivers or witnesses or the police. If there's media that's there, don't make a statement to them, refer them to your company owner or to your fleet program administrator. Don't discuss the details of the incident with anyone except for somebody in your company. And report every accident, no matter how small. As time progresses, the things that are reported, even when they're small, if there's lots of small ones, we can learn from those as well. And that's really what I would hope everybody would understand, is that we're reporting them and talking about them to help prevent them, not to make you feel bad about having had it happen. So those are the vehicle accident report forms, keeping that kit in the glove box. Driver training. Recommended as part of the fleet safety program. Why do we need to train drivers? The most recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics said that every 111 minutes across the country there's a work-related injury. And transportation incidents account for 40% of all workplace fatalities. So 4 out of 10 workplace fatalities are due to a motor vehicle collision. So it really is the most dangerous task in the workplace today if we go by these figures. Then also, why do we need to train drivers? Because drivers tell us they need to. They need it. A National Safety Council survey that talked to a lot of drivers asked, do you believe that driving is a safety concern? And 83% of drivers said yes. So 17% of drivers either didn't understand the question or didn't feel that safety was a concern when it comes to driving. 64% say they're comfortable speeding. Almost 50% comfortable texting either manually or through voice controls. And then down there, the 13 and the 10% comfortable driving while impaired by marijuana or alcohol. To me, that's pretty alarming after all these educational programs with insurance and just public service announcements and the distracted driving injury and fatality rates increasing, and still this amount of people comfortable doing all this. So it's best that you tell them that you're not comfortable with them doing that while they're driving your billboard down the street. Driver safety is a work priority. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says 94% of all car accidents are the result of driver error. So it can only help that you're trying to go through this program and to speak with them about best driving practices. The number one thing you can do is to train your drivers to become defensive drivers. And really all that is never assuming that another driver is making safety their priority. It has to be yours. And also thinking of driving as a full-time job. Just drive. A lot of times we think of it as downtime. We're in between calls, so it's time for our mind to go to la la land, think about whatever we want. It's really time to focus on the road and those around us and making, the right call with our driving decisions. Not to put on makeup or to shave or to put on deodorant. I've seen all those things on the highway before. So defensive driving is really just to try to support a zero accident, staying focused, minimizing distractions, be predictable for other drivers on the road too, use your turn signal, other ways to communicate. If you're stopped and your flashers aren't working, then roll down your window, wave them by. Different ways to try to have people understand what's happening. Kind of the same thing here, stay out of people's blind spots. There is a truck driver shortage. I've noticed that big trucks on the road, I used to stay out of their blind spots, but also I think subconsciously think that those were the good drivers, the people that were on the road all the time. But there's a lot of people that have gone to a quick CDL class and are put behind the wheel of a big rig and are out there now and they're weaving from lane to lane. So just really, you can never be too sure as to who are the good drivers. Maintain proper speed, scan ahead, use your mirrors, all that stuff from basic driver's education. So in the beginning, I was talking about saving time and money with the fleet safety program, and this is kind of how it can happen. So in 2021, which is our latest figures, medical injury costs for motor vehicle incidents were $5.4 million across the United States and all business. And then total motor vehicle injury costs were almost $500 billion. And the total takes into account the wage and the productivity loss when you lose somebody, the burnout of asking the existing employees to take on more tasks, the medical expenses, the administrative expenses, both insurance and with you handling the claim, the property damage to the vehicle, and then advertising for a new employee, trying to hire a new employee. There's that chance that they're not going to work out, and you have to hire again. And then also HR experts say that it takes employees about 2 to 3 months to 2 years to actually start to become productive on their new job. So you just really want to keep the valuable people that you've already trained and that are working for you. That's just a recap of everything that we just went through. But the Michigan Septic Tank Association accounts that are with the general agency, I asked our corporate home office to kind of put together an auto loss analysis for the last 5 years. I thought you might be interested in seeing where your auto losses were coming from. Total incurred was about 1.4 million in the last 5 years. That's 224 claims. Average cost of the claim, about 6,300. Not really all that bad when it comes down to it. So I just wanted to say, keep doing what you're doing. It's working. And then the top auto causes of loss, which were fire and collision, kind of the basics. And then, you know, the dollar amount that went along with it and number of claims for each cause of loss. And then the last one, the top 10 claims by dollar amount. There's a couple of fires to the vehicle, one a fire to the building, and sometimes I'm finding that people are parking vehicles inside a lot more, and EMC as an insurance company has seen a lot more vehicle fires, so maybe keep them outside, your call. An implosion, and then, you know, just people running into things. And then also one of them where tires lost traction on wet cement and hit another vehicle. And that's where I'm going to pass it off to Brandon, who's the fleet director for Alma Tire Sales, and let him talk about how important it is to keep your tires